And I'm here talking to you about our Odyssey shawl. And it's so nice to be here with you on this nice sunny day. We finally have got a little sun outside and it's just gorgeous. So I hope you guys are all having a good morning. And I just wanted to talk to you about a few housekeeping items before we get started. And first of all, for those of you who are part of our knit club, which we offer a project every week, it's going out in the mail today. So you can look for that in a few days. And then over the weekend, I was working on a mask pattern for all of you. And my goal for the mask pattern was to have something that worked well and was super easy. So I made up a pattern where all I have to do is cut this one piece of fabric and I can make it into a pleated face mask with a nice bendable noseband. So you have your noseband inserted in there. And it has just one seam all the way around the outside. You could choose to do two seams along the outside, but it's totally up to you. And then I have the elastic ear straps, but you could also use bias tape on the bottom and the top and get the same effect with this face mask. Now I wanted to show you that I had these. Here's what the face masks look like. Those are some that I've done. And they're super, super quick knit. And oh, what I like about this face mask too is it has an opening for a filter that you can put a filter in. And we did a bit of research and we found that the shop towels that you have, the paper towels that you have in your garage, I made filters for mine to go inside of my face masks so that it would offer additional protection for you when you're out there. Also, when I was making it, I was using stuff that I already had at home. I did not go out and buy stuff. So you'll see that it's made out of just one color of fabric because I'm using odds and ends of fabric that I already had at home. And this is wire. It is nice. It's called Garden Training Wire by Vigoro. And it is a huge amount of wire that I already had in the garage. I keep this for when we plant stuff and we need like our tomato vines to stay up and elevated. You use this wire. So what that does is, let me show you the noseband again. It makes a nice, soft, flexible wire, and it is completely machine washable because it is a plastic coated wire. So it's totally awesome. Yes?
Can you show them how it's in that channel?
What do you mean?
The wire's in that little channel?
Oh yes, the wire stays in the channel. You just sew a 1/4 inch seam. Do you see how I have a 1/4 inch seam? And then I just insert it. So what I do when I go to make my little pocket or sleeve for the wire, or casing, whichever you want to call it, is I fold my mask in half, and then I would mark that center with a pin, and then I would put my tape measure on the 1.5 inch mark and put a mark on either side and make my seam 3 inches wide. And then you can just fit it right in there and you can wash it in the wash machine and it doesn't fall out. It's wonderful when you go out in public because it's nice and secure around your nose so it's not leaving holes when you're going out.
Hey Kelly, tell them Kathleen will post a link to the material.
Right. So I think Kathleen is going to post a link, and she'll let you know how to find the actual dimensions of the fabric that you need to cut, the one piece that you need to cut, and then instructions on how to sew that. And it was a pattern that I made because I looked at the Olsen mask and some of the other ones out there, and it took me quite a while to make them. And I'm like, my son-in-law wants me to make 45 or 50 for his office, and I need to be able to do it quickly. And so this was my solution to be able to make it quickly and to help a lot of people. So I came up with the pattern. It's super quick. It's super easy. Once you make one, you can just bust them out. You can do like 6 an hour or more. So it's totally fantastic. So now back to our Odyssey shawl. Jim, can you show them? Here's my Odyssey shawl. I started this project yesterday, and there's some things that I thought might be valuable to you as we're going along, and might help make it easier for you to be able to knit your project quickly and not get off track. And so let me take the pattern and we'll take a look at it. Okay. So this shawl is using Dos Tiras, which is a 50% alpaca, 50% wool. Oh, also you guys, as we're going along, this Dos Tiras, the last week's prize was for, we substituted Anniversario for Diana because we ran out of it. But this is a wonderful yarn that's hand painted by Malabrigo. And then I was thinking that if you guys can help me choose, this one is called Matisse Blue. And this one is called Wales Road. And they're both beautiful yarns. And maybe you can choose which one you think our winner would like for this next week. Both beautiful. So you guys vote on that, and then you'll be entered to win. Maybe one of you who are voting can may enter and win. So here's where we start. We start with the Garter Tab right in here. And that was pretty straightforward and super easy. And then, if you look at the beginning of our pattern, so if you look at our pattern, it starts with the Garter Tab. And that's this little section right in here, right? And then you have to pick up stitches along the edge, which was straightforward and very easy. It was no problem with that. So when I'm talking about when we got down to our repeat rows 1 and 2, 34 more times, you should have 149 stitches. So I'm working along, going, so that's the section from here to here. So I thought, how can I keep track of how many increases I've done and when I'm getting close to my target stitch count of 149. And then I thought, oh, well, let me just count the garter ridges because each garter ridge is an increase. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 there, and then that's 10. And we need, our target is, we're going to repeat 34 times. So, and then from the yellow one to the orange one is another 10, and then the orange one to the blue one is approximately another 10. And then I did like 4 more, and then I started, then I counted my stitches. This saved me a huge amount of time just using this little technique to basically have 10 sections of increase, 10 sections of increase, 10 sections of increase. Now start counting and make sure you got your stitch count. And then when I got up to after this one, then I figured out how many stitches I needed and how many more increases I needed. Then I used my hash marks. And then when I got to the final one, I had my correct stitch count of 149 stitches. So then we go on to our lace bands, and when it first starts, it's doing a few on right along here. There is a few just purl rows. It's not garter stitch. It's not knit every row. It's purl the rows. So that what it does is if you pull it out, do you see how it highlights the lace section? And I'm talking about right in here and right in here. Let me pull it out so you can see it again, what it's going to look like when it's blocked. Isn't that cool? That's totally cool. So when you're doing your pattern, don't be confused and think that they made an error in the pattern. They didn't. They're doing that to actually highlight the lace section. Now, if we go down to row number 5, this right here where it says slip, slip, knit, knit 5, make your hole, knit 5, knit 2 together. So what I would do for those of you that haven't done a whole lot of this, make sure that you can use a highlighter and just highlight this section because you're going to repeat this section all the way across. And what I did on mine, when I'm doing the lace section, I have my edge markers. These edge markers are, this is the edge of the work. It's not that actual repeat, but each one in between here is the section that's in parentheses. Okay, so I would mark that so that when I get to, after this very first row and I have set these markers, when I come back to knit, if for some reason I find out that I get to the edge of the marker and I haven't completed the actual stitch pattern that I'm supposed to, I know that I'm off and I don't have to knit all the way to the very end to find out that I got off on my pattern. That's a really bad way to learn because right now on mine I have over 225 stitches. So if I made a boo-boo way back here and I didn't catch it right here, but I caught it all the way over here. You could see how many more stitches I would have to go back just to be able to correct my error. Otherwise, you know, some people wouldn't even see it until about 5 rows later, and then they would realize that maybe their stitches are not lining up correctly. That is not good. You don't want to do that, because I like to be proud of my work, and I don't want to first thing I do is apologize for getting off pattern and messing something up. So on here right now, I have done my tick marks all the way down, and I'm on row number 5. And right here is the pattern that I have been repeating. So I'm going to show you, and it says repeat this pattern till you get to the marker. And that marker is this marker right here, that's our edge marker. So I have one last repeat that I was going to do. So let's see if we can knit this. So I already did my slip slip knit because I wanted to lock my nice little stitch marker into place, right? And then I'm going to be going knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what I like to do when I'm doing these repeats, I just do a quick check and say I have a slip slip knit and then 5 stitches. Yay! Now I'm ready to make my hole. And what making a hole is you grab the running thread that is between the 2 stitches, and you see right here, this stitch right here, I'm looking for the running thread that is attached to that stitch, and I put it on my left hand needle from the front. And then I go in as if to knit, yarn over. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I've made my hole. So I take that off the needle. Then I would go knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my last stitch is a knit 2 together. So I have 2 stitches left, so I know that I am on track and that I have not gotten off pattern. Thank the Lord for that. Now we're going to slip our marker. Then we're going to do slip slip knit, which is slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, and then knit those 2 stitches through the back loop. Then we're going to be going knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to check and make sure that we have 6 stitches on here, which we do. And now we're going to make our hole, which is lift that up on the needle from the front, and then go knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let it off the needle. Then we're going to be doing knit 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to knit 2 together, knit front and back, knit front and back, knit 1. On this pattern it says knit 2, but since I like to slip the last stitch instead of slipping the first stitch, I actually slip that last stitch so it's in the proper position for me to do my next stitch on this side, which is a knit stitch. So I would have to have my working yarn in front.
So why do you like to do that?
It makes my edges look better. I find that my edges look better if I slip the last stitch rather than the first stitch. And there is another reason that I like it, is sometimes when I get in a hurry and I'm knitting along very quickly, I will forget to slip the first stitch. But I hardly ever forget to slip the last stitch because I have all the way across the row to remember to slip that last stitch. So I just find that I have an easier time remembering to do it that way. So then on this first one, on row number 6, it will say slip 1, but I'm not going to slip 1 because I slipped that. So I'm going to go ahead and knit 2. Let's see, so I need a total of 4 knits. So I have 4 knits, and then I'm going to purl 1, and then it says to place a marker. Now I'm not sure why they're telling me to place the marker, but we'll take a look at it. I haven't done this section yet. One second here. I should have set my stitch marker out. But I wanted to show you that on this next row number 6, it has purl 2 together through the back loop. And I thought that was worth going over with you so you can see it. So I've placed my marker, I'm right here, and then I'm going to be going purl 2 together, right, and then purl 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have purled 14, and then I'm going to go purl 2 together through the back loop. So I have 2 stitches left, so I know that I'm on pattern. And what you do when you purl 2 together is you come in the back here and you insert that needle from underneath that second stitch, and then you just purl it as if it was a regular stitch. And that's how you do purl 2 together. Now it tells you to remove your marker, and it goes on to repeat your pattern. So let me show you what your pattern repeat is. So on here, then you would continue across your row where the place marker, it's purl 2 together, purl 14, purl 2 together through the back loop. Remove your marker, then this right here becomes your repeat. So you repeat this over and over to the marker, and then it says to remove that next marker and then end your row. So it's really easy to do. So every time you see these kind of repeats in parentheses, you want to go ahead and follow that. Now on this row right here where it has these kind of parentheses, it says knit 1, yarn over 6 times. So you would go knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. And I like to count it like this: knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, yarn over, knit 3, yarn over, knit 4, so yarn over, knit 5, yarn over, knit 6, yarn over. So when I complete that 6th one, I don't have to go back and count, say, did I do 6? I'm counting them like that, which makes it easier for me to keep track of that actual little pattern there. Now let's take 1 second on this. Oh, let's look at the beginning here. On our pattern for this knit along by Joji Locatelli, it tells us, first thing that I did is I decided what order I'm going to knit my shawl. So I decided I'm going to use the blue color first, the dotted color next, and the adobe color third. So I put that on there. Then another thing that I had to look at was gauge. So I took my last colorway that I would be using, and I did my gauge, and it says to do gauge in garter stitch, and I used US number 8 needles, right? And then what I did is I did 8 purl bumps. So if I ever needed to go back and look at this again, I could see what needle size I had used to make the actual swatch with, right? So on this gauge, it tells you 13 stitches in 26 rows, and they want more like 17 stitches in 4 inches, right? Right. So because here's the reason why their gauge is different. This original shawl was knit in Madeline Tosh DK, Tosh Merino DK, and that has 225 yards per skein. Well, if you look at our Dos Tierras, the Dos Tierras is a yarn that has 210 yards per skein. So if we knit it at this original gauge, we would run out of yarn before we ran out of pattern. So we need to knit it on slightly smaller needles in order to make the yarn expand to the size of the pattern. So anyway, here's what I did. It tells you to do your swatch and have it in garter stitch, and I just cast on 18 stitches for the heck of it. Normally I'll cast on around 20 or thereabouts, but I cast on a good amount of stitches. I don't really pay attention to that. My goal is to try and make a swatch that's close to 4 inches wide, right? So when I am doing my swatch, I can actually kind of look at it and see that with the measurements here, that I have about 4 extra stitches shy of my 4 inches, 4 extra stitches to make that 4 inches, right? So I would cut this off, and then I would say, count these stitches that are left on the needle. 5, 10, 15. So the short of this story is that a US number 8 gives you 15 stitches to the inch, and 15 stitches in 4 inches, and you actually need 17 stitches. So for me, using a US number 8 needle, I would run out of yarn before I ran out of pattern to knit. So I had to knit my project on US number 7s. Now, doing this really roughly is not, I wouldn't recommend it for a sweater per se. All you're trying to do is protect yourself from running out of yarn before you run out of pattern. So it's not something that actually has to fit like a sweater would. It's a shawl. It can be a little bit variable on the size, and it would still wrap around your shoulders nicely. But doing a rough gauge check just to make sure that you're not going to run out of yarn before you run out of pattern is a really good idea. And this is a good way to do it. And a lot of times I'll just leave my swatch on needles, but you can also put it on scrap yarn and then dunk this into the sink. You will notice that I have not cut my yarn from my actual cake of yarn. So, and I used it from the outside, because what I can do is, now that I know that number 8 needle is a little bit too big of a needle and I need to drop down to a number 7 needle, I can just pull out that scrap yarn and rewind my yarn back onto my cake so it's ready to use. And this is a really good way to be able to quickly check your gauge for the Odyssey shawl, and so that you make sure that you don't run out of yarn before you run out of pattern that you're supposed to be knitting, right? You would hate to get all the way to the lace section and not have enough yarn to finish the beautiful lace pattern, or maybe not be able to finish your bind off, right? So that is how you check gauge on that. So knitting this shawl, I mean, I just started the shawl yesterday, right, Jim? I just started my shawl yesterday, and I'm getting fairly close. Today I will definitely be done with my second section and be working on my third section. And for the most part, except for this little tiny lace section in here, it is easily memorizable. So what I mean by that is I don't have to hold the pattern in front of me. I can just knit it. Because I have marked my right-sided row, and with my pink, or, you know, close to pink colors I could find. And I know when I'm working on that side, I'm increasing across the row. And then the next row after that is what we call a rest row, meaning I'm knitting the pattern without increasing. So if you guys haven't seen this knit along before by Joji Locatelli, which is called the Odyssey Shawl, it is a great little project. It's free. It's on our blog, right, Jim?
Yep.
And it's using lovely Dos Tijeras, which is this 50% wool, 50% alpaca yarn, and it is hand painted. It's beautiful. But you don't necessarily have to use that. If you have yarn in your stash and you want to make the pattern, it is a really fun pattern. I've really enjoyed it. And you can even use it in a worsted weight, and I think it would make a really nice shawl as well. So don't forget to let us know where you're from. Maybe you can share with your friends so that we can all learn together. These tips and tricks about how we knit and how we keep on track and how we just use these little tiny hints that make our project so much easier to knit is totally awesome. I don't know if you guys have ever knit a project and you've knit hundreds of stitches and you get to the end and you have 4 extra stitches. That's It's like, have any of you out there had that problem? I have on many occasions, and I tried desperately not to have that problem because it's not fun when you have to try and decide where the problem was and you can't find where you messed up, but you know that you have because you have 4 extra stitches when you get done with the end of the row and you're supposed to be done. It's not a good place to be. So using some of these little tiny tricks can really help you out and make the huge difference from you having fun to making you want to go and beat your head against the wall. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be frustrated, especially at this time when we already have, you know, all these things that are going on that are stressful and, you know, worrisome. And so we don't want to make ourselves more stressed. So being able to use the little tips is great. And don't forget, you guys, our VIP group is a nice group of ladies that are so completely talented. And they're knitters and crocheters, and you can get help as you're going along. So if you are staying at home and you want to feel connected to a group, I highly recommend our VIP group. It's so fantastic. People are encouraging each other and talking about things that they're grateful for and posting beautiful projects, and it's just very inspiring. Jim reads a lot of the comments to me as I'm working along because a lot of times I'm knitting or have things that are pressing that I have to take care of, so I don't always get to read all the comments, but Jim does share them with me, so thank you, Jim, for doing that.
Because you've been so busy,
Yeah.
Tara's been answering all the questions on the KAL.
Yes, and Tara is one of our staff members, and she is so fantastic, and she's trying to help you guys out in the VIP group whenever you have questions. So that is great. Thank you very much, Tara, for helping out with that. And then, of course, we have Kathleen that is in our background, and she is replying to your comments. She writes blogs. She does all kinds of stuff for us. So thank you so much, Kathleen. And don't forget, for all of you out there, if you get a chance to thank our nurses and our medical workers and all those people out there that are helping to keep us safe, and we just thank you for that. And thank you for the police officers that are exposing themselves to the dreadful virus. And I hope that everyone stays safe this week. I do have a project. This next Tuesday, I might be working on mittens I was thinking about. Just simple ribbed mittens, or I was thinking I might do a toy. It depends. Maybe tomorrow I'll decide that. It's kind of whatever I'm excited about, I like to work on, because then I get to share my excitement with you. If I'm not really into it, I have less enthusiasm, and then it's not as fun for you. So I'll have to see what strikes my fancy for next week. But let's get back to our winners. So you guys need to help me vote. And for this next week, we have the one of these 2 skeins. One is called Wales Road, and you can't really see it, but it has some green and kind of midnight blue. This is a beautiful colorway. And then Matisse Blue is, boy, this is almost like a neon blue. It's really beautiful. But I love these yarns. I want to get them in your hands. That's why I keep offering them for the prize, because I want you guys to be able to try it and see how lovely, what a lovely yarn it is. And so you guys help me choose either the Matisse Blue or this one, which is Wales Road.
And what kind of yarn is it?
And it's called Dos Tierras. And it's 210 yards per skein, and it's a DK weight. And it's really lovely. And then for this last week, our prize was, I substitute Anniversario for Diana, because Diana sold out already. And they're very similar colorways. And so let's look and see who the person who won the prize for this week is. Marion Ogletree. Yay! You won. Marion, you have some lovely yarn coming your way. So all you need to do, Marion, is contact customer service. Let us know what your address is, and we can ship this out in the mail to you. And I hope you enjoy knitting with it as much as I do, because it is quite lovely yarn. I really do like it. So congratulations, Mary Ogletree. That's fantastic. And then for next week, don't forget, you guys help me choose the colorways. Totally awesome. This is great yarn. Anyways, in summary, knitting this knit along, it's a great free pattern by Joji Locatelli, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a super easy knit, quick knit, and it's really pretty. Oh my gosh, I love the yarn and I love the pattern. It works very well together. I'll be very excited to see what it looks like blocked out. And then don't forget, when you're doing your project, use these little tricks, whether it is highlighting that repeat section, or one second here, I'm looking for the pattern so I can show you what I'm talking about. Whether you're hiding your highlighting your repeat section, or you're remembering to count your stitches, or you're using hash marks instead of tick marks, all of those things will help you to knit this knit along and any knitting project faster and easier with much less problems and mistakes to deal with later on. So I hope that you guys have a great week. Please be safe and take very good care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next Tuesday.